Drop Site News has just revealed that there's another organization trying to help Israel in this country. Oh, thank God, I thought there was gonna be none left at all. Okay, yeah, so this one is targeting the states because the federal level, check. Apparently that's easy and done with. But what in the world does Israel want with our state governments? Well, John, tell us all about it.
Yes, so this organization, it's a new nonprofit, which is important in ways we will describe. It's the State Legislator Israel Caucus. Again, so Drop Site News has done great reporting as they have for some time on this. Documents have been obtained under the Florida Sunshine Law outlining the overall aims of this new organization to set up a system to distribute pro-Israel model legislation to state lawmakers around the country. And if you believe that like on a federal level, I guess having some influence over the diplomacy maybe makes sense, like it's Kentucky, why? Like why should it have any specific stance vis-a-vis a particular country? I don't understand, but obviously they are biased. So it is in this particular case relevant that this is a nonprofit because there are limits on how those organizations can engage in politics, but there are also some upsides you get by organizing in that particular way, particularly if you are a foreign actor or you're staffed or paid by foreign actors. So Israeli officials apparently discussed using the nonprofit system to avoid FARA disclosure. That's the Foreign Agents Registration Act, according to a leaked 2018 memo reported by The Guardian. The idea was to fund American partners indirectly through a nonprofit organization that would not trigger FARA's requirements. A legal advisor for Israel's Ministry of Strategic Affairs suggested that informal coordination mechanisms such as oral meetings could give the ministry, quote, means of supervision and management over those American partners without a paper trail. And when you're talking about doing everything you can to not have a paper trail for your activities, that's how you know it's awesome and not shady. It's great that you're doing that. Anyway, they're just humble. They don't want people to like find the papers and be like, oh, that was great that you did that. Anyway, so we're gonna hear more about this. This is from a Florida state lawmaker, the co-founder of the organization named Michael Gottlieb, who says, I believe I'm the only person who has contributed so far, referring to the draft legislation that his organization was then pitching to state lawmakers. Gottlieb mentions two specific examples of future proposals he had in mind. Some states have had Sharia law bans, so somebody could put that there if they wanted. And there are Judea and Samaria bills. So more Sharia law. I mean, you gotta do that fast, okay? Because Sharia law is coming to Oklahoma any day now. That's definitely what's gonna happen. Anyway, Gottlieb and other documents claim that 75 lawmakers from 35 different states have joined the SLIC so far. And the launch event invitation promises to release a directory with the option for members to remain anonymous due to anti-Semitism and doxing issues. Again, it's not, believing that what you're doing would inherently look bad and you don't want them to reflect poorly on you and you're covering your paper trail and all that. It's just about the doxing or whatever. So anyway, we could talk about some specific examples of this and some of the politicians who've been going along with it. But overall, I wonder, is this a representation that they seem to believe that they have so captured the federal government that it's almost not even diminishing returns on putting more attention and money into it? So we gotta find somebody to influence, I guess governors, state representatives?
So I have a number of theories. Again, we'll give you some specific examples of what they've done. But first off, state legislators eventually become national legislators. You groom people for a long time, and we've covered these stories before. The Israeli lobby goes and finds young, promising African Americans throughout the country, and they give them money to run for state seats, which they barely had any intention of running for, and they groom them all the way up. So they've been doing this for decades. So that's part of the reason why they do it. Number two is there are definitely some state issues, including the ones we're going to tell you, but ones that are not on the list. Like in New Mexico, they want to investigate Epstein's house, and the federal government's like, no, no one's allowed to go in there. We didn't go in there. The state can't go in there. You're not. Why? Well, now if you have legislators in the New Mexico state legislature, they might prevent you from investigating Epstein's house in New Mexico. So, and in fact, I talked to the daughter of a state rep in New Mexico just earlier this week. And she basically did a video turning on her dad because she's like, what is going on? In an earlier version of this group was 50 states, one Israel. why are the 50 states serving one Israel instead of one America? All of this is insane, right? And then there's the laws where they take your rights away if you criticize Israel, which is what we're going to get to in a second. But I also wanted to say here, this kind of like Judea and Samaria talk that they have that this guy is pushing. I mean, it's hilarious if it wasn't so tragic. So he says, well, we can't have Sharia law because, of course, it was about to take over Oklahoma and Broward County. My God, Sharia law is so popular there. We're inches away from getting 51% of the vote to turn the whole state Muslim. All of this is fantasy, and it's not just like, hey, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense at all. There's no such threat, right? No, it's the demagogue to get you to hate Muslims.
Yeah.
Right? And meanwhile, crying about anti-Semitism. So they're like, no, bigotry towards Muslims, we pay money to do that, right? But if you complain about that, then we'll pretend you're the bigots, right? So Judea and Samaria, on the other hand, is actually religious fundamentalism. That's what they call the West Bank. And those are the lunatics who think that God whispered in their ear 3,000 years ago and said, you should murder the people on that land. It's yours, take the land, murder them. Like if you hear somebody saying Judea and Samaria, run, okay? Because they're psychotic and they're a religious fundamentalist who does not believe in rationality and believes that you should take other people's land by force because God told you to. Like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, like serial killer stuff.
You've got to make sure you're getting your news from a range of sources that help you see the real story, not some biased version of the truth. That's why we've been relying on our partners over at Ground News. They're a small independent team who built an app and website that gathers news from across the political spectrum so you can compare coverage on any issue with data on each source's political bias, credibility, and even ownership. I found this headline through Ground News, and I think it's worth digging into. 2 January 6 police officers sue Trump to block $1.8 billion lawfare fund. Now, this is a pretty loaded headline, and when I look at it on Ground News, I can understand the story better than I can from the headline alone. Ground News shows me that over 300 sources covered this particular story, with only 12% of that coverage coming from right-leaning sources. Now, I can also see the distinct differences in how the left and the right frame this story. For example, this high factuality source on the left is calling this a $1.8 billion slush fund for the insurrectionists on January 6th, while this right-leaning mixed factuality source is calling this a lawfare victims fund. Same story, 2 completely different implications, but I wouldn't have that context without Ground News. We have a president who plays fast and loose with the facts, and too much of the media unfortunately does the same. But I think Ground News is solving that issue, and it's one we've talked about a lot on this channel. The overload, distraction, the missing context that's skewing our perspective of the news. So if you're tired of the chaos, we've got 40% off their Vantage plan. Just go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code. I really think it's worth checking out.
And these guys, including in Florida, including with Ron DeSantis, are like, yes, absolutely. Steal the Palestinian land and murder them. It has to be Judea and Samaria as God's. God didn't say that. God, back when the Bible was written, or even when the rabbis were first talking to whoever the heck they were talking to, the state of Israel didn't exist. It's a government formed in 1948. So all of this is, as usual, disgusting efforts of one country and always one country to own all of our legislators at the national level and now at the state level. Meanwhile, as we give you fact after fact, and now we'll show you the bills they're trying to pass.
Yeah.
The liars in media who apparently, and I didn't know this for most of my life, all work for Israel, will tell you, no, you can't say the Israelis are trying to control or even influence America. No, if you say that, you're an anti-Semite and you should never be allowed on the air and your voice should be crushed in America for opposing Israel. I mean, for being an anti-Semite. No, they're giant liars. So don't believe they're garbage. Now, John, tell us the facts about what they're trying to manipulate us into in the state level.
Yes, you shouldn't say it even though they're saying it in these documents.
Yeah, they're like, hey, here's a document where we're looking to control all of your legislators. Hey, look, they have a document, anti-Semite. Okay, such an obvious sophistry. You'd have to be so stupid as to be a cable news anchor to believe that.
Well, here's an example. So we're gonna start with Florida. So one of the first states to ban boycotting Israel in 2016. Obviously, Florida is big on freedom of speech, freedom in general, except that type. Don't exert freedom there. DeSantis came to office 3 years later, promising to be the most pro-Israel governor in the nation. Yeah, just constant. I remember Gavin Newsom, he's like, I'm gonna be the most pro-Norwegian governor California's ever seen. That was a weird ad when he did that. But anyway, so that year he traveled to Israel to sign a bill against anti-Semitism. Since then, he's also mandated boycotts of Iran. So I guess some boycotts are okay. Attempted to ban Students for Justice in Palestine and created a state terrorist watch list. And like Donald Trump and the federal government, incredibly broad classifications for how you're now a terrorist. So obviously, anybody who believes that there's a genocide, you can potentially get like thrown out of your university if you advocate for that. Leftist organizers, that sort of thing. And so nobody's surprised by that. Now Gottlieb, who we referred to earlier, has explicitly stated that the SLIC has support from the Israeli government to push for more policies exactly like this and to use money and influence campaigns to get the politicians necessary to get these across the country and in the federal government as well. He specifically says in an invitation to the launch of the organization, at the incredible rate we've been building and the level of acceptance of our organization by the Israeli government, we are hopeful that this organization will become a formidable partner for legislators in establishing model legislation. So the launch party did happen already. It took place on June 2nd, and John Fetterman was there.
No, what a big surprise.
Shocked by that. Leo Terrell, attorney in the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, Michael Leader, the Israeli ambassador to the US, and according to Gottlieb, many other Israeli diplomats. And the party was apparently paid for directly by the Israeli government. But again, because of the way it's being organized, you don't necessarily get to know nearly as much about its activities as you might know otherwise, especially if it was trying to influence the federal government.
Yeah, and Gottlieb admitted that the Israelis paid for everything. And by the way, they set up C3s, these are nonprofit charities, and they have said before that they set up those C3s so that they could avoid the Foreign Agents Registration Act. So they're like, we're gonna do espionage, we don't wanna get caught, so let's set up a C3 here to infiltrate America without tripping over any legal wires. But guys, I don't know why you're bothering. It's not like you'd be arrested. An Israeli official came to Vegas and tried to rape a 15-year-old American girl, and we let him go. 10 Americans have been murdered in Israel. We barely even asked for their arrest, and none of them have been arrested. No, if you're Israeli, you're above the law anyway. So now let's talk about the state levels laws that John were mentioning. First of all, it's just so super strange for any governor like Ron DeSantis to come in and say, I'm gonna be the most pro-Israel governor in the nation. Imagine if somebody came in and said, you know what, I'm gonna be the most pro-Philippine governor of Rhode Island you've ever seen. Why? Why do you have to be pro-Philippine? Why do you have to be pro-Kazakhstan? No, there's only one nation that constantly serve loyally, and they say it. They shout it from the rooftops, I will serve Israel, right? Okay, weirdo, why are you doing that? Everybody knows. The only people pretending not to know are reporters in DC, because they get paid millions of dollars from the Israeli lobby. Ron DeSantis has taken millions in campaign contributions from the Israeli lobby. He says that because he wants other donors to know, I'm your bitch. I will betray the Florida voters and serve your foreign country if you give me enough money. And so we're gonna tell you how he served him in a second, but one of the things that he did was he signed one of these pro-Israel bills. He flew to Israel to sign a bill about Florida. That's amazing. So he's saying, look, since I serve you guys, I've come here to report to my master. Master, I will take away the rights of the citizens of Florida on your behalf. Good boy, Ron. Good boy, DeSantis. And then he goes kiss the wall, starts making out with it, rubbing up against it. Okay, why do they do this? Because of corruption. It's so obvious. Our reporters go, no, they're just natural. They just have a natural kinship with Israel. Oh, come on. Who would be childish, dumb enough to believe such stupid things? All right, now let's get to super serious stuff. So one of the things that John mentioned is a state terrorist watch list. What do you think? Well, okay, a bunch of terrorists. What could be the harm there? No. They're putting CARE, the largest civil rights organization for Muslim Americans, on the terrorist watch list with no evidence, nothing. They're like, yeah, they're stupid Muslims. Now they're terrorists, okay? And now if you're a Muslim, you better shut up. Because Israel paid DeSantis and Greg Abbott, they're doing this in Texas too, a ton of money to be bigots, to attack American citizens on behalf of Israel, to spread poison and hatred inside this country. So these are evil forces that are inside our country trying to get us to hate one another, definitely to hate Muslims, and to take our money and our rights away. Now our rights. Okay, so they passed these anti-BDS laws, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions laws, right? So what does that mean? So that means that if you have a government contract for whatever, construction, anything else, janitorial service, it doesn't matter. And you dare criticize Israel and you're in favor of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, that's it. You're losing your livelihood. You no longer have the freedom to say that. And give me the government contract, we're ripping it up. How dare you defy Israel? So they take away your rights, they take away your living, and all to serve a foreign nation. This is insanity. The only reason why we're not all in an absolute fury over this is because our media are working for the same exact people. The national media cover all of this up. Why do we constantly go to drop site news? The mainstream media does not dispute anything that drop site news has reported, okay? Instead, they go, anti-Semites, how dare you speak against Israel, right?
Or more likely, ignore it.
Yeah, or ignore it, of course. And Dana Bash is out there every day bashing Palestinians, lying about them, saying how great Israel is. Ro Khanna gets detained by a bunch of raging settlers, and then IDF, etc. And he comes back, and everybody in media is like, "How dare you defying Israel like that? That was a restricted area where they're murdering Palestinians. You're not allowed to go in there as an American." Okay. Why do you think it's, first of all, it's not restricted, but second of all, some of the areas are restricted because they're murdering Palestinians there. Did you say that on TV? No, you made it seem like, oh, they're having a picnic and Ro Khanna busted into the picnic. So no, a national media works for Israel. Now all these state legislators work for Israel. They're lying to you. It is a nefarious government, obviously trying to control America at every level.
Can you, so they want to do what they want to do or whatever, so they come over, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars and they elect a whole bunch of politicians so that we'll pass laws and let them do whatever they want. Can you imagine like AOC wins in 2028 and she's like, okay, we're putting $10 billion into funding candidates in Israel, every level, judicial level, for parliament and everything, and we're gonna elect a government that's gonna end the genocide. And do we think that Benjamin Netanyahu would be like, I guess that's their right. I guess we'll just let them buy politicians or whatever. No, and I wouldn't even, that would be wrong were we to do that. But we're also supposed to shut up about it. And by the way, we're focusing on this, and as you always sarcastically say, if Germany was doing this, we'd talk about it too, but there's only one country that's doing it.
Oh no,
and there's only one country that the media wouldn't immediately jump on were they to do it.
Look, guys, 2/3 of Jewish Americans are against this current evil Israeli government. Only 1/3 are in favor of it, right? And so unfortunately that 1/3 has a tremendous amount of money. And in that 1/3 are radical Zionists like Rupert Murdoch and Larry Ellison, and they own an enormous percentage of our media. And everyone in media knows if you criticize Israel, you're gonna get fired. And you're gonna be smeared and they're gonna put the scarlet A on you, anti-Semite. Every reporter in Washington lies on purpose to protect Israel because they know if they don't, they will be fired. And then hilariously, they turn around and write, I have to write this? No, please don't hit me. They have no control, don't hit me, don't hit me. They have no control over us. If anyone says they have control, even though there are literally billions of dollars flowing into all of our politicians and our media, and it's an empirical fact, if you report those empirical facts, we will call you an anti-Semite and try to destroy your life and career.
Yeah.
So this is what control looks like.
Yeah.
And it's oppressive and I can't stand it anymore. And I'm super proud of Americans for waking up and saying, we can't stand this anymore, okay? Including, by the way, wonderfully brave Jewish Americans, especially younger Jews, who are helping in this cause at 2,000% and driving their parents crazy. And I'd like to thank those parents, even if they're in the wrong 1/3. Thank you for raising your kids right, to have morals and to be Americans, and for them to fight so valiantly to help protect Palestinians and protect American sovereignty, okay? Yeah. The only people left that are evil and trying to manipulate us is national media and the disgusting servants of Israel in Congress and apparently all over your state legislatures.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.